Welcome back to the Duke Lifestyle Medicine Clinic. I'm Dr. Eric Westman, and I'd like to teach you how to do the no sugar, no starch diet today. Okay? I tried to put everything into the title of this, so I named this program No Sugar, No Starch. And the reason for that is that this is a very scientific kind of diet. When you have sugar and starch in the diet, it raises the blood sugar, and then insulin goes up in the blood. And as a result, insulin tells your body to make fat and store fat. So I tried to put it all in the title. It all has to do with sugar, starch, and insulin in a nutshell. And I'll tell you all the details about that during this program. I've had people come to me and say, well, I understand I need to get the sugar out, but the diet didn't work for them because they didn't understand that starches really are just sugars all connected together. So our bodies digest starches very efficiently into those basic sugars. So eating a starch like potato, pasta, rice is just like having a teaspoon of table sugar. Okay? Sorry for the news. I'm just bearing the news of how science looks at the diet in terms of the sugar and the starch. You may have heard of this as a low carbohydrate diet because carbohydrate really is the general term for sugars and starches. Okay, so this is a version of a very low carbohydrate diet as well. To look at the diet in another way though, it really just consists of real food. Okay? So we're getting rid of all the fake foods, the junk foods that have been in the marketplace for so long. So real food, meaning meat, fish, cheese, eggs, salads, and vegetables. And I want you to keep your carb content to about 20 grams of carbs for the whole day. And if you've never counted carb grams, a slice of bread has about 20 grams, or maybe 10 grams of carbs. And then an apple the size of my fist has 20 grams of carbs. So that's why at first those are not on the eating list, okay? So we have to avoid sugar, bread, fruit, flour, pasta, really any other sugary, starchy foods that has a high carb content, okay? Now the way this works is that your hunger will go away so that you won't feel the need to eat so much. So you'll be eating less. Not because I tell you to eat less. I never talk about calories or portion sizes. And what happens is your hunger goes down and you just start eating less. And that's how you lose the weight or fix the diabetes or other metabolic problem that you have, okay? Now, on page 4, don't go to page 4 yet, but on page 4 I have a list of foods that I want you to stick to. So I'm going to make it really simple. You know, some people really like that. Oh, you know, the foods on page 4, that's what I need to eat. It's black and white, it's great. Other people hate it because, oh, it's black and white, I can only eat the foods on page 4. But I've really simplified the whole approach into a food list, and we'll get to that in just a minute, okay? There's some introductory material I need to work through before I get to the allowed food list, or page 4 for short. Some people have side effects the first few days. Or the first week. You might notice cravings for foods that you're not eating, cravings for the sugar or the fruit or the things you're not eating. No problem, the cravings will go away. And by next week, when I see you, I'd like to see you all next week in the clinic, the cravings should be gone. In fact, one of the first questions I ask you is, are you hungry? And if you say you're hungry, something's wrong. So by next week, you ought to come back, if you've done this for about a week, and tell me that you're having no hunger at all. That's the way I know it's working, okay? During this next week, though, if you're having some fatigue, some lightheadedness, that sort of thing, what I want you to do is to drink bouillon. which is a salt substitute. I know this is the first violation of what you've been taught that I'm going to make, okay? I want you to have salt when you're not eating carbs, especially during the first week if you're not feeling well. And the reason for that is there are fluid shifts that happen during the first week, and that can be very helpful. If you have any question, you can also just call me and I'll remind you of that during this first week. Drinking plenty of fluid is another way to minimize the side effects that you might get the first week. And there's some other side effects that most people don't get, and I really put them here for your reference. So please turn the page to page 2. Most of you will get some sort of sugar craving. That's the foods you've been eating for so long. You may miss that. Now the cravings will pass, but you can have a sugar-free beverage or sugar-free Jell-O, something like that, for the sugar cravings. You can treat the sugar cravings with those things. Probably the most popular sweet treat is the sugar-free Jell-O with whipped cream on it. So you can take some whipped cream, put that on your sugar-free Jell-O, and that will take the cravings away. Real whipped cream, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not suffering, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah. So you can have sweet things, just not things sweetened with sugar. Okay, I'll get back to that in a minute. I do want you to use bouillon if you don't have heart failure or high blood pressure. And for those who have that, I'll make a 0 on your page 4 for the bouillon. If you don't have those, though, to prevent or minimize these transition symptoms, we call them, fatigue and lightheadedness that some people get, bouillon is very helpful. That's the cube or the crystals just in hot water, and you have 1 or 2 of those a day as a preventative. Ketosis is fine. This is a diet that uses ketosis. Ketosis just means you're burning fat. So in fact, that's what we want to do. And there's a lot of confusion about ketosis because in the textbooks it's often mentioned in the context of diabetic ketoacidosis. And if that's the only place they mention it, doctors and health providers think that's what it is. This is very different than diabetic ketoacidosis, okay? This is a normal state when you're burning fat. So ketosis is fine. Ketones are really just fuel chemicals that the body uses, kind of like glucose, kind of like sugar. What happens if I slip? Well, this is a very metabolic diet. In fact, I'm taking you from carb burning, because you've been eating carbs, to fat burning. Because when you don't eat carbs, your body has to burn fat. And what happens if you're in a fat burning mode and you eat carbs is that your body stops burning the fat, goes back to burning the carbs, and so you may block the fat burning for 2 or 3 days if you slip and have some carbs. So what that means is I've had people coming back saying, well, I'm doing really well, but I'm having carbs on Monday and Friday. Well, this won't work, okay? You have to be very strict to limiting the carbs every day because I'm taking you from carb burning to fat burning, okay? Another way to think of it is that we really just burn what we eat. The humans are very flexible and adaptable, so if you're eating carbs, you'll burn them. If you're eating fat, you'll burn them. What this diet does is takes away the carbs out of the equation, so your body has to burn fat. It's forced to do that. It's very happy to do that. In fact, it starts looking around and saying, I have fat right here. So that's why you're not hungry. It's because you're burning your own body fat. Okay? So that's pretty neat. This is a diet that really maximizes your body's ability to burn fat. Okay? Even one step further, the fat you eat now is being handled differently than before. It's handled in a way that you burn the fat that you eat. You're not storing it like you used to be if you were eating carbs and fat and you were in a carb burning mode. Okay. The second violation of what you've been taught is I want you to eat fat because you're handling the fat differently. In fact, eating fat helps you burn fat because it revs up the enzymes that have to do with fat burning in your body. It may not make sense at first, but I'll remind you in the clinic that I want you to eat fat, and I want you to have salt. Okay. This is kind of like I'm teaching you how to drive a car in England. You know, they do it wrong there. Well, it's not wrong there. Well, it's not wrong, right? It's just different. So they drive on the left-hand side of the road. In fact, they make the cars with the steering wheel on the right side, not the left. It's just a different way to go about it. So you've been taught from out there that you should limit salt and limit fat, and so that's the low-fat way of going about it, like driving on one side of the road. I'm teaching you how to drive on the other side of the road, and it works just fine, but it means that you may have to disregard or unlearn what you've been taught from before, okay? So it's just a different way to go about it, all right? But that often causes confusion, so I want to just point that out to minimize confusion. Now, I do want you to have a multivitamin, like Centrum Silver or its generic equivalent. If you're not a menstruating female, you don't need iron in the vitamins. So please use an iron-free multivitamin, and I'm happy to check the vitamin if you bring it into the clinic. Fish oil is helpful for maximizing fat burning, and especially helpful if you have high triglycerides in the blood, but that's optional. If you want to do this without the fish oil, that's just fine. Okay. Turn the page to page 3. So many people ask about their blood cholesterol levels. We'll check it before and after, and what the research has shown is that the prediction of the cholesterol getting worse in everybody is wrong. It was just wrong. So most of the time the cholesterol gets better. In fact, the triglycerides and HDL cholesterol, the new way of looking at the blood panel, gets better almost all the time. So the good cholesterol will go up using this kind of diet more than anything else we know about. And that's really important for minimizing the heart disease risk. Okay, a lot of research to support that now. And the education of people is very slow. I mean, I still meet a lot of doctors and healthcare providers who don't know this yet. So you can expect that you may have doctors who are concerned about that. Tell them not to worry. Why don't you check my blood? That's what happened to me. If I go back to 1998, I had several patients doing this kind of diet. I was working at the Veterans Hospital here in Durham, and these 2 patients, I remember them, they were doing this diet, losing all this weight, and I didn't know anything about it. I was very skeptical. Finally read the book, said, well, your cholesterol is going to get worse, and one of them said, well, why don't you check it, doc? You know, you are a doctor, right? So he reminded me that I could check it. And 2 in a row, the blood cholesterol got better, even though everyone else said it was going to get worse. And I wasn't so overtrained to ignore what I was seeing in front of me. So that's really what led me to start inquiring and researching this diet further. And many other doctors, though, are where I was now about 13 years ago. So they may be skeptical, they may maybe not know about this much at all. So remind them to, if they're worried about something, to just check it. Your weight's not the only thing that will improve. You're going to notice better energy levels, better appetite control, lots of things. If you're diabetic, you can expect better blood sugar control. If you're taking insulin, I need to reduce that in half. So I need to reduce it by 50% on the first day you start this diet. If you're taking insulin and you drop the carbs that you eat and you don't adjust the insulin level, your blood sugar will fall, and it may go down to dangerously low levels. So that's why if you're taking diabetes medicines, you need to do this with a physician who understands how to do this, okay? Bariatric doctors, weight loss doctors around the country know how to manage this sort of medication reduction. Lifestyle medicine, the name of the clinic here, also involves increasing activity and reducing stress. I learned how to do this at one of the 3 lifestyle residential programs that are here in Durham, North Carolina. And I adapted what they did at the residential programs into an outpatient version of it. And we've done this in the clinic now for 5 years here in the outpatient setting. I find, though, that I really don't have to talk about activity and stress management at first. I really just want control of your diet. Okay? If you're exercising now, fine. If you're not, don't worry about it. When you're ready to exercise, let me know. Really, for weight loss and for metabolic change, the most important thing for me to have control of is your diet. Okay? for many people that's a big relief because they don't feel like they're ready to exercise, or they can't, and that's okay. There's a common misconception that you have to exercise to lose weight, and that's not the case. We do have a support group that meets once a month across the street at the Tier House. You're welcome to come there. At the current time, it's so oversubscribed that if you call and they say there's no room, just come anyway. We won't kick you out, and we'll see you. Every month there are 20 to 30 people who are there talking about how to do low-carb diets today in our region, or our area. Okay, I've learned lots of things from the people who come, these folks who are basically scouring the area for low-carb things and sharing those ideas. My information on how to contact me is here at the bottom. Please email me or phone me. I don't mind at all. And if you're taking insulin and I'm managing your insulin reduction, I'll give you the contact information so you'll be able to get me almost immediately. Okay? Turn to page 4. So that's all introductory stuff. Page 4 is the program. Okay? If it's not on page 4, don't eat it, is what I want you to remember as a result of this. Okay? If it's not on page 4, don't eat it. You got it. So this is the no sugar, no starch diet. I borrowed this list of foods from a practice that had used this approach for about 20 years. So these foods are very carefully selected and honed through lots of different people. So beginning at the top, remember I want you to stay under 20 grams of carbs per day, and I don't care how you cook the foods. There are a lot of misconceptions about if it's fried it must be bad, or if it's baked it must be good. No, all I care about is whether there are carbs with the food. So if there's breading that has carbs in it, that's not good. It's okay that it's fried. A lot of people like to fry chicken in a combination of crushed pork skins with egg. And because that has no carbs, you can fry chicken there and it becomes crispy and tasty. So all that matters is whether there are carbs on the food or not. How you prepare it doesn't matter to me. Okay? Now when you're hungry, I want you to eat your choice as much as you want from these foods because they have no carbs. Okay? So that's the meat, poultry, fish and shellfish, and eggs. You don't have to avoid the fat that comes with the foods, and you don't have to deliberately limit the quantities of these foods. But you should stop eating when you start feeling full. Okay? So let me just go through these foods more specifically. For meat, I mean beef, hamburgers, steak. I still remember this Christmas prime rib that I had with an inch of fat around the edge, and you can have that. If you like it, it's delicious, and it helps you burn fat. Remember, eating fat helps you burn fat. Pork, ham, bacon, these are all fine. Lamb, veal, and other meats. Processed meats like sausage, pepperoni, hot dogs are fine. Just want to make sure the carb content is less, or about 1 gram per serving. Bacon really, just about makes everything taste better. Isn't that true? And there's a lot of unnecessary fear about eating bacon. I think that comes from the notion that eating fat is bad. And I want you to forget that notion, okay? Remember, we're driving on the other hand of the road now, the other side of the road. Poultry, chicken, turkey, duck. I have a college professor who goes out and buys pheasant and has that with his wife. I have another college professor who's divorced and doesn't own a pot and drives through the fast food in the morning and fast food at lunch and fast food at dinner, and as long as he's not eating carbs, that's just fine. So it doesn't matter how you implement it. The science says just watch the carbs, okay? Fish, shellfish are fine. Tuna can be in a can. It can be fresh, frozen. It can be flown in from the beach an hour ago after being caught. I don't care. All right, that's all kind of gimmicky stuff. All I care about from the science side of things is whether there are carbohydrates in it or not. Don't forget shrimp, scallops, crab, and lobster have no carbs. Okay. Eggs, whole eggs are permitted without restrictions. I think eggs are the perfect food nutritionally. If you think about it, you can make a chicken out of an egg. Ever thought about it? The nutrition is so complete. You can make a whole being out of it. So again, the eggs used to be out, causing bad things. Now they're back in. So eggs are fine. Boiled eggs come in handy for snacks throughout the day. Any questions about the proteins? These are really the very nutritious sources of protein and fat that I want you to focus on for the day. Now, I do want you to have 2 cups of salad greens and 1 cup of a non-starchy veggie for the day. And that's, some people look at that and say, wow, that's not many vegetables. Usually that's the women. And then the men come in and say, well, that's a lot of vegetables. So, and yet they're all living and alive, right? So we're very flexible. Now, in terms of the amounts, 2 cups is roughly 2 fistfuls, and you'll see me in the clinic say 2 fistfuls of leafy greens, or 2 cupfuls, and then 1 cupful or 1 fistful of the non-starchy veggie. Okay, you can go home and take your measuring cup and compare it to your fist, and then throw out the measuring cup, because I don't want you to have to be that precise. And fortunately, these are so low in the carbs on this list that there's a little wiggle room on it. But that's the target. I want 2 cups, not too much more, not too much less, of the leafy greens, and 1 cup of the non-starchy veggies. So the salad greens or leafy greens include arugula, bok choy, cabbage, chard, chives, endive, beet greens, collard greens, mustard greens, turnip greens, kale, lettuce, parsley, spinach, radicchio greens, radishes, scallions, and watercress. Basically, if it's a leaf, you can eat it. For the non-starchy veggies, I want you to focus on just these, okay? Artichokes, asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, celery, cucumber, eggplant, green beans, jicama, leeks, mushrooms, okra, onions, peppers, pumpkin, shallots, snow peas, sprouts, sugar snap peas, summer squash, tomatoes, rhubarb, wax beans, and zucchini. So there's a lot to choose from, right? You'll notice the conspicuous absence of some things you may have been eating, like potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn. These are just way too starchy, okay? In fact, corn is fed to animals to fatten them up. That is very commonly known, and corn is fed to geese to make a delicacy called fatty liver, called foie gras. So it's not good when you're trying to lose weight and burn fat. If all you did was have your protein sources and your salad greens and your veggies, that's all the nutrition that your body needs. Even during weight loss, which is a bit of a stressful time for your body. By this point, someone usually says, well, where's my fruit? Right? I've been told I have to have fruit every day. It's not true. Fruit is actually very sugary and will stop the weight loss using a low carb approach very quickly. So you have to be very careful about the amount of fruit, if any. I prefer you not have any. Okay, so bouillon, I would like you to use up to 2 times a day if you don't have heart failure or hypertension and or ankle swelling. And that's to minimize the transition symptoms that can occur from going from carb burning to fat burning. Okay, usually just the first couple weeks. Now, to make this very delicious and fun, you can have the foods down at the bottom in limited quantities. Cheese up to 4 ounces a day. Cream up to 2 tablespoons a day. A moment about dairy. Milk has sugar in it. It's called lactose. And so that's why milk is off limits now. But you can have heavy cream.
Can you have coffee mate and stuff like that or no?
You can have coffee mate or those kinds of things, but you got to watch the carb content. Usually that's about 1 gram per serving. But you know, the coffee mate doesn't fit the real food definition. So optimally, I'd like you to have the real cream, but in a pinch, sometimes at the workplace and all, you'll just have coffee mate available. That's pretty low in carbs. Mayonnaise up to 2 tablespoons a day, olives 6 a day, avocado 1/2 a fruit a day, lemon lime juice 2 teaspoons a day, soy sauce 2 tablespoons, pickles, dill or sugar-free up to 2 a day. Avocados and lemon lime juice are great for making guacamole, or if you're out at a restaurant having guacamole. And at the bottom, snacks can include pork rinds and skins. They have no carbs in them at all. Pepperoni slices, ham, beef, turkey. A roll-up is the colloquial term for when you take a piece of cheese or string cheese, roll it up in a piece of meat and eat that. It's very quick. If you tell me you only have 30 seconds to eat in the morning, no problem. Make a couple roll-ups and you'll be good to go for the rest of the morning. And deviled eggs, the last thing on my list, is the best. Deviled eggs are not just for the holidays. They're very tasty, and one of the ways to make this a lifestyle that you can get used to. Okay. If it's not on page 4, don't eat it. Okay. If you lose page 4, I'll give you another one. I'll email you one. Okay. I have lots of page 4s. Some people put this up on their fridge, take it to the grocery store, that sort of thing, until you get the hang of the foods that are very low in carbs. So remember, the science tells us that you want to keep the carbohydrate grams under 20 for the day. And this list of foods, you don't even have to count carb grams. If you stay to this list and the quantities here, you'll stay under the 20 grams. Okay? So let's turn to the next page. This is a little background information just to help you understand, and often things you hear will be quite confusing. The primary restriction of this diet is carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are sugars and starches, or otherwise known as simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. And I've listed out the sugars and simple carbohydrates. They are white sugar, brown sugar, honey, maple syrup, molasses, corn syrup, beer, milk, flavored yogurts, fruit juice, and fruit. So those are off limits. And then starches are complex carbohydrates, so they get digested to the simple sugars. So it's just like having sugar. So you have to avoid grains, even whole grains, rice, cereals, flour, cornstarch, breads, pasta, muffins, bagels, crackers, starchy vegetables like slow-cooked beans, pinto beans, lima beans, black beans, carrots, parsnips, corn, peas, potatoes, French fries, and potato chips. Okay. Now, there are a couple of exceptions. I've learned this from the low carb support group. There is a yogurt product that you can find that's only in our area available at Kroger. It's called Carb Master yogurt. You may want to write this down. Carb Master yogurt has about 4 grams of carbohydrates in the serving. And so I'm teaching you that there are a few exceptions to the if it's not on page 4, don't eat it rule, right? So that if you can keep the carb grams under 20 for the day, that is also the other goal. So Kroger Carb Master yogurt is the name. There's also a fruit juice product that is a diet fruit juice that has 2 grams for 8 ounces, and the brand in this area is Ocean Spray, Diet Cranberry, and that's very tasty, very popular. Fats and oils are in. Carbs are out, fats and oils are in because they have no carbs, essentially. They don't raise the blood sugar, don't spike the insulin level, and that's that insulin level that makes our body make fat and store fat that we're trying to avoid. So any fat and oil is fine as long as it's natural. Even butter is fine. For salad dressings, that means things like oil and vinegar, blue cheese, ranch, Caesar, Italian, these are all fine. Watch out for the light dressings because these commonly have more carbohydrates. The industry uses the term light to mean low in fat, and then they added carbohydrates back generally to make it palatable. A Cobb salad is a good choice because generally there's chopped eggs, bacon, and grated cheese that is also involved with that salad. Fats are important because they taste good and they make you feel full. You know, our bodies feel full in 2 ways. You can stretch the stomach, much like going to a Chinese restaurant and you have all this rice and you stretch the stomach, you feel full. Well, the stretch goes down and you're hungry again. A more elegant way to turn off the hunger is by eating protein and fat. And when protein and fat hit the stomach, a chemical goes from the stomach to the brain that says, I'm getting full. Right? So, in fact, that signal of fullness lasts for a long time. Some cultures even use this to end the meal. In France, often you have cheese for dessert because that will turn off the appetite. Okay? Don't attempt to follow a low-fat, low-carb diet. I want you to have the fats, and a good reason for that is that it will help you feel full. Okay. You can have sweet things, just not things sweetened with sugar. So any of these other sweeteners are fine, like Splenda, NutraSweet, Truvia, Sweet and Low. Watch out for the sugar alcohols, though, because they can cause stomach upset and gas. You'll find those in the diabetic candies that are currently out there. As I recall, though, on page 4, there's no diabetic candies, right? Yeah. Okay. So, you know, I'd say stick to page 4. You know, things sneak in. Like I remember the gentleman who came back, wasn't losing weight. You know, I don't make you write out what you eat at home. That's too much work. And this works so well, you don't have to do that. And yet another principle of what you've heard about in losing weight that I violate. You don't have to write down what you eat. Occasionally I ask people to do that. He came back, he wasn't losing weight, but I do ask you to write out what you're eating in the clinic. So next time, the first thing you'll get is a page that says, please just write out what you're eating and drinking so I can look at it. So this gentleman comes back, he's not losing weight. I can't figure out by what he's told me where the problem is. So I said, okay, this happens sometimes, I'll see you next time. Well, he got up out of the chair and I heard this chick, chick, chick. I said, wait, I know what that is. They were Tic Tacs. You know the sound that Tic Tacs make, right? These little sugary breath things. Well, 1 or 2 Tic Tacs is okay. I mean, there's a half a gram of a carbohydrate in each Tic Tac. Well, he was having 2 boxes full for the day. That's not hard to do if you chew them and you know, you're not paying attention. Likewise with sugar-free gum, just be very careful. Usually the sugar-free gum has about 1 or 2 grams of carbs in it. So you don't want to be using these frequently throughout the day. So sweet things are all right, but you have to watch out for these nuances about those things. Beverages. There's really no magic number of drinks to have for the day. Really just let thirst be your guide. And we do allow caffeine up to 3 servings a day, roughly. There's a lot of wiggle room there. And it's very individual. So most people can have coffee and other diet sodas as much as they want. Others can't. So just try it and we'll go from there. I'm teaching you the strictest version to get you on the right path, and then we need to find how your body responds. Okay? Some people can eat more carbs than others, depending on their age, their gender, their exercise activity level, and so we'll find your individual level. Okay? Does anyone drink alcohol? So at first, I'd say please stay away from the alcohol. Every program like this works better if you don't drink alcohol. But if you must, there are some ways to drink low-carb beverages, and ask me about that in the clinic, okay? Turn the page to page 6. Just as a reminder about quantities, I don't really talk about quantities or portion sizes of the foods that have no carbs. So one of the defining elements of this diet is that can always eat and still lose weight. You just can't eat carbs. So eat something that doesn't have carbs. Okay? Does that make sense? So there's no caloric limit. And I want you to eat proteins and fats. I want you to eat real foods. But another part of the diet is that I want you to start listening to your body, and if you start feeling full, stop. Okay? So you don't have to eat everything on your plate. Okay? Many of us were raised with that. In fact, I was raised with the notion that I had to eat everything on my plate even though I was full. Right? You may have had that experience too. Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to eat everything on your plate now, okay? Maybe when you were a child, but not anymore, okay? At restaurants these days, I'm given about twice as much as I can comfortably eat. So I take home the rest with me and have it the next day. Here are some important tips and reminders. The following items are not on the diet. They're not on page 4. Sugar, bread, cereal, flour-containing items, fruits, juices, honey, whole or skimmed milk, yogurt, canned soups, dairy substitutes, ketchup, sweet condiments and relishes, Well, that said, there is a low-carb ketchup that some of my patients have found that is 1 gram per serving. So if you're missing ketchup, there are also some ones you can make on your own that are very low in carbs. I'll show you about that. Watch out for these common mistakes. Fat-free or light diet products. What happened there is they cut out the fats and they added sugars. Coleslaw at just about every restaurant and fast food place, they add sugar to it. So watch out. Sugar-free cookies and cakes just aren't low enough in carbs. So sugar-free does not mean carb-free. Okay. Watch the labels, and I'll teach you how to do that in just a moment. Here are some books and cookbooks and websites that I recommend. The most popular website for my patients for recipes is Linda's Low Carb Menus and Recipes. That's http://genaw.com/low-carb/. The recipe for make your own ketchup that tastes even better than the Heinz one is at Linda's Low Carb. The recipe for a really, really popular thin and crispy crust pizza is at Linda's Low Carb. If you're wondering what to eat and you haven't found Linda's Low Carb yet, I'll bring it up in the clinic and show you, print you out a couple recipes. Turn the page. So if you were a dietitian, the top half of the page is what you would want to see in terms of the protein and fat and the carbs. You are getting carbs in your veggies, about 10 grams. And then the bottom half of the page shows you how simple it could be. A sample day could look as simple as bacon and eggs for breakfast, lunch, grilled chicken salad, pepperoni slices and a cheese stick, burger, patty, or steak for dinner, green salad, and green beans with butter. It's real foods. It's fixing your metabolic problem.
The pre-clinic conference is in the conference room. Pre-clinic conference is in the conference room.
Last thing I'd like to show you is how to look at a nutrition facts label from the low carb point of view. The only number I want you to look at is the number that comes up after total carbohydrates. Okay, so this is a nutrition facts for cauliflower, and it shows 7 grams of carbohydrates in that serving of cauliflower. I'd like you to look, if you're looking at products, to scan for things that have 0 grams or 1 gram, things like that. If it has as much as 7 grams, you have to be careful about the serving size, okay? Because I want to keep you under 20 grams of carbs for the whole day, okay? There are 2 ways to count carbs, the total carbs and net carbs, and I'm teaching you the total carb method today. So between now and next time, I'd like you to stick to page 4. Remember, if it's not on page 4, don't eat it. That's right. And I look forward to seeing you all next time.